In life, people are often caught in a cycle of worry, anxiety, and endless calculations. We tend to believe that the solution to our unease lies outside of ourselves. But we forget that our minds are burdened by continuous thoughts about the past and future. Buddhist philosophy, through the practice of meditation and letting go, teaches us an essential truth. Only when we know how to empty our minds can we find true peace and clarity. The following story of a young king will illustrate the profound journey of seeking and discovering tranquility within one's own heart. Once upon a time, in a prosperous kingdom nestled among green mountain ranges, there was a young king named King Alexander. Though respected by his people and possessing all the material luxuries a king could desire, King Alexander's mind was never at peace. He constantly worried about past decisions and future responsibilities, leaving his soul restless and unable to find tranquility. One day, the king heard of a famous Zen Master who lived atop a distant mountain. It was said that the master held the secret to finding inner peace and serenity. Eager to discover this secret, the king decided to make the journey himself to meet the Zen Master. After days of arduous travel, King Alexander finally reached the mountaintop, where the Zen Master sat silently, his eyes closed in meditation. The king bowed respectfully and said, "Master, I have come here seeking your guidance. My mind is always restless and filled with worry, and I cannot find peace. Can you teach me how to clear my mind?" The Zen Master opened his eyes, smiling serenely, and said, "So, you wish to learn how to clear your mind? Very well, I will teach you." The Zen Master led the king to a small garden filled with beautiful flowers. In the center of the garden was a large stone basin full of clear water. The master took a small ladle, scooped water from the basin, and poured it into a small bowl next to it. "Your task, Your Majesty," said the master, "is to empty all the water from the basin into this small bowl without spilling a single drop." The king looked at the full basin and the small bowl, wondering how he could possibly complete the task. Nonetheless, with the determination of a ruler, he began his work. For hours, King Alexander carefully scooped water from the basin and poured it into the small bowl. But no matter how hard he tried, the basin never seemed to empty. The more he tried, the more frustrated he became, and his mind grew even more restless. The Zen Master watched the king struggle with compassionate eyes and gently said, "Your Majesty, you are trying so hard to empty the basin, but you have forgotten the first and most important step. Before you can empty the basin, you must first empty your mind." The king paused, looking at the master with a confused expression. "But how do I empty my mind?" he asked. The master smiled and softly said, "Let go of your worries, your fears, and your ambitions. Focus only on the task in front of you and live fully in this moment. When you are truly present, everything will unfold naturally." The king took a deep breath, releasing all his tension and frustration. He began scooping the water with full attention to each motion, listening to the sound of the water, and no longer thinking about completing the task. As King Alexander's mind became calm, something miraculous happened. The water in the basin seemed to respond to his newfound tranquility. With each scoop, the water flowed effortlessly into the small bowl, and the basin gradually emptied. Finally, the king poured the last drop of water into the small bowl. He looked at the Zen Master with amazement and gratitude and said, "I understand now. When my mind is empty, everything becomes easier." The Zen Master smiled. "You see, when you empty your mind, you allow the universe to flow through you. You become one with the task at hand, and everything naturally falls into place." From that day forward, King Alexander carried the master's wisdom in his heart. He lived in the present moment, no longer letting worries consume his mind, and his kingdom flourished in peace and prosperity. The story of King Alexander and the Zen Master is not just a simple parable, but carries a profound message from Buddhist philosophy about awakening. In Buddhism, all suffering arises from clinging to the past or worrying about the future, from endless desires and fears. Only when we learn to empty our minds through meditation and letting go can we find inner peace and the wisdom to face life. Tranquility does not come from external circumstances. It has always existed within us, waiting to be discovered once the mind is no longer distracted by anxieties. Letting go and living fully in the present is the key to opening the door to enlightenment and peace.